You know, what's really sad is that anxiety has become such a commonplace thing for all of us. I think that the normal freakouts, crash outs, worries, shakes, lack of sleep, all these things become normal to us, right? It's these things where we look at it and we go, well, this is just how it has to be, and this is exactly why it should be that way, because I have this wrong with me, or I have this, or I have that. By the way, I completely agree. I think that there are situations out there that are uncontrollable, that anxiety takes us over, and it defines our decisions. It influences friendships. It does all these terrible things to us, and it has no positive reinforcement whatsoever for the most part, unless if you can find a positive reinforcement for anxiety, which the only thing I could say that I really have with that is that I clean a lot, or that I keep my mind busy. I read, or I mow the lawn, or do whatever I can to try to make that as much of a good thing. Take a negative and make it a positive. So yes, I guess there is a way that you can take something truly negative like anxiety and make it positive, but at the core of it, it is a negative force. But what stands out to me the most is that I know for a fact that even as a young kid, I had aggressive anxiety before I had anything happen to me, before any abuse, before any bills ever enter my life, before my first relationship, all these things. I was constantly worried. And the interesting thing is, I can't remember at all what I was worried about. I know for a fact I was worried. I know for a fact that I maybe made my parents' lives hell because I just couldn't shut up about something specific. Hell, even one of my teachers, I'm not going to name her here, but she purposefully kept us after the class, after the bell would ring, right? And it was to teach us a lesson of that you leave whenever she tells you. Well, one day she made us wait twice as long as what we should have been to prove a point, and I missed the bus going home. Now, this was at a different time, so, teachers just got away with whatever the hell they wanted. In fact, I think my principal drove me home that day because he saw what was happening and he was like, all right, don't worry, I got you. She's a bitch. We'll just take care of this. Of course, he didn't say that to a, 10-year-old kid or however old I was. But the thing is, that situation then sparked up every single time that the bell would ring. At the end of the day, I would be worried I was going to miss the bus. And she actually screamed at me once to shut up because I was so worried. But here's the thing. I remember that one, right? I don't remember the majority of the times that I have had anxiety, even as an adult. But what I do remember was that I had anxiety. Now, does that mean that those situations are in fact valid? Or does that mean that the only common denominator was me with anxiety? There's plenty of things that can help. There's plenty of things I think that you can do. You can stay busy, which is a byproduct of that. Like I said, I don't know whether or not that means that anxiety is a good thing. I highly doubt that. In fact, that just sounds dumb. But I can't deny the fact that there are some good things that can come of it. I think it's easier when you look at your brain from an outside view and realize, wait a second, all these small things that I worry about, I've never told anybody, and usually 90% of the time they never happen. In fact, I found out that basically when I kept my mouth shut and just let the world run around me, that's when I found that things got a lot easier. When I talked less, I didn't put my foot in my mouth as often. When I just let things occur and let them happen, I got to see what the true outcome of reality truly is. This happens at my job all the time. I was an annoying person for the longest time, and I'm so sorry to any coworker of mine that I've ever been like that to. But the thing is that once I made that shift, once I stopped, once I realized, wait a second, you know what? Maybe I should just relax a little bit. Maybe I should make that conscious effort to relax. And the weird thing is that it manifests itself in a way where, man, like I genuinely do feel better, because then after I realized the situation that was at hand really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes I had to just grit my teeth and just get through a situation and just keep my mouth completely closed and just internalize all that pain. But the thing is, the pain was temporary. Ultimately, I made it to the end of the thing and just was not worried about it anymore. And then I moved on to the next thing to be worried about. I think it's one of the shittiest things about being in the human condition is that we think to ourselves, oh my God, if my anxiety could just stop. Well, I think the reality is that our anxiety is never going to stop, but you got to pay attention to what's around you. You got to see what's actually happening. And I'm not talking about watching the news. I'm not talking about soaking up all the bullshit narrative that's being fed into us 24/7. You can call me a conspiracy theorist all you want, but the second that I shut off the news and stopped paying attention to that and focused on the people that were around me, my quality of life has improved drastically. Also, too, I stopped welcoming the negative things that were causing me problems. Music is very difficult for me to enjoy in the same way that I used to because we do a reaction channel. So for a while, I complained about what was happening and that the fact that music had to evolve for me, that I can't listen to anything that I want to, or that I feel like something's been stolen or taken from me because of reacting. However, it was all in how I reacted to that. Reacting to reacting, which is interesting. It's that whole level of, inception. But truly, when I picked up reading again and I started shifting my focus and started getting excited about story and getting excited about prose and all those different wonderful gifts that reading gives you, my mental health skyrocketed. Now, let me throw something practical at you, okay? When I was a kid, I started smoking when I was 15 years old, smoking cigarettes. I thought I was hot shit and thought it was cool because Slash smoked and I thought that I should do it too. I know, stupid as hell. But I was very worried about my parents finding out because, I was 15 years old, 3 years off from being an adult, and I still lived under their roof. Now, granted, both of my parents had experiences with nicotine and they both still to this day. But as a kid, I was genuinely worried because I thought, man, I'm going to get grounded, or I'm going to, get read the riot act, or I'm going to get all these different things, or these terrible things are going to happen to me. And I think one day I finally just told Mom. I think I just came right out and said it. And she really wasn't the one that I was worried about, but I just came out and said, yep, this is what I do. And she went, all right, well, I could ground you for a week and then you're just going to go right back to it. But then again, she's like, I just have to let you make your own mistakes, and you have to understand that it isn't what you think it's going to be and that you will regret it down the road. So there was that aspect. It was the fact, okay, well, now Mom knows. And one day in my bedroom, I left out my smokes. And the weird thing is that my dad, he pulled me aside, and I don't even think it had anything to do necessarily with me even smoking at first. I think it was the fact that we were just talking about a movie or a video game or something. And he asked me very nonchalantly, he said, hey, he's like, have you been taking up smoking? And I was honest with him, and he just said, all right, man, well, just please quit. That's it. And I had built it up in my mind that something horrible was going to happen to me, or that, the dread of being punished, of being grounded, or of being restricted from things that I love, all those different things. It just didn't happen. It didn't go down the way that I thought it was going to. In fact, both conversations I had with my parents were very encouraging. And thank God they were, because they honestly put up with a lot with me when I was younger. And that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. But in all reality, no. They just care about me. They just wanted to know for a fact that I was okay. I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is the fact that, look, I got anxiety too. It's the absolute worst when I wake up and it dwindles throughout the day, and sometimes it stays with me whenever I'm on my way home from work, and it just grips its horrible, disgusting barbed talons into me. But what I can tell you is that whenever I do have some perspective and I'm able to stop the world for 2 seconds and think, that's when I remember that it will be okay. And I know for a fact that it will be okay, because the only way for anxiety to thrive is to be in a situation where it can be safe enough for it to thrive. That's where it's so active for me. That's when the boss music. Anxiety is a lot like when boss music is playing in a video game and you don't know where it's coming from and there's no enemies to fight, but the music is telling you that there's something dangerous around you. Sometimes it's just music. Sometimes it is just music. Thanks, guys.